Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you all.
Would you introduce yourself, tell us your name and your DOC number, please?
Jerry Lee Hampton, 74972.
Okay, and you are represented by counsel. Counsel, would you introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, Ms. Renata. Jane Hogan here on behalf of Jerry Hampton. I'll make a statement at the end with the committee's approval.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hampton, you're here today. You're seeking a commutation of your sentence. You have convictions in Rapides and Orleans Parish. Now, let's see. You have first, it was a manslaughter in April 1973. You received a 16-year sentence. We have in August 1993, I believe in Rapides, second-degree murder. You received a life sentence. And then in 1984, there was a simple escape, which you received a 2-year consecutive sentence. Does all that sound correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let me acknowledge the folks who have joined us today. In support, we have the Parole Project. Mr. Hunley will be speaking in support. Mr. Hampton's sister, Ms. Viola Hampton, will be speaking in support. And we also have joining us there at the penitentiary, Ms. Yvonne Hampton, your wife, and Byron Hampton, your nephew. Here to speak in opposition, we have a representative from the VA's office, Derek Johnson, and we'll call on Mr. Johnson at the appropriate time as well. Your case this afternoon, Mr. Hampton, has been assigned to Mr. Marabella. Would you answer his questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Hampton. My name is, good afternoon, Mr. Hampton. My name is Tony Marabella. How are you today, sir?
Doing fine, sir.
Mr. Hampton, how old are you, sir?
I'm 69,
Okay. And how long have you been in prison on these charges?
40 years.
40 years?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hampton, I've reviewed your record. It looks like you've done a lot of things while you've been in prison.
Yes, sir.
Thinking for a change, victim awareness, 100 hours of pre-release. You're currently enrolled in GED, is that right?
Yes, sir. I graduated from literacy, so they moved me up to GED.
And Malachi Dad's, Cage Your Age, you're a Class A trustee. You've done extremely well while you've been in prison. I'm going to be real honest with you. I've got some real problems with your crimes. Let's talk a little bit about what happened in 1973 in New Orleans.
Yes,
So tell me what happened there.
Me and my wife, we were separating. I wanted to go back home to the country. She wanted to stay in New Orleans. And I wanted to take the kid with me. She told me I could. When I went to get
Now,
the kid,
let me ask you this because I didn't really understand it from the record. Was Kiva your daughter as well?
daughter.
Okay, all right, go ahead. Sorry.
So when I went to get the baby, and she opened the door, let me in, and when she let me in, she attacked me with a knife. We wrestled over the knife, we fell on the bed, baby got stabbed. And
And you actually went to trial or did you plead guilty to manslaughter?
I pleaded guilty to it.
They worked out a deal where you went to jail for 16 years.
That's up because
And
I was
you got
wrong.
out on, I'm sorry?
I was wrong. I shouldn't even went there. Without the proper authority, I should have never went there. So that I was wrong for that.
Now, and how much time did you serve while you were in prison?
6 years, 6 months, and 22 days.
Did you take any kind of programs there? Did you do any kind of rehabilitation or anything else while you were there?
No, sir. I couldn't. Because I stayed until 74, and then they sent me to LCIS, so I went to cooking school down there. And that's where I started getting the certificate and stuff like that.
Now, were drugs or alcohol involved at all in this first incident, 1973?
No, sir.
Have you ever done drugs in the past?
No, sir.
Alcohol, do you ever drink?
I drank.
So the 1973 incident that had nothing to do with drugs or alcohol. You went there, your wife attacked you, and you ended up killing your baby.
Yes, sir.
Now you got out of prison. What did you do when you first got out of prison?
I got a job working at Delta Dex, sheet metal mechanic. I was a sheet metal mechanic for Delta Dex. I left Delta Dex, I went to Regency Motors. I did automotive work.
Drugs or alcohol at that time at all?
No, sir.
Tell me a little bit about the bad blood between you and the King family, or your family and the King family. Tell me a little bit about that.
They was having a dispute. My dad was involved. I intervened. I shouldn't have. I know I was wrong for that. I wound up shooting James. Shot James and killed him.
Mr. Hampton, tell me how that happened. You say you wound up shooting him. Did you go look for him? Did you find him? What happened? How did that happen?
I didn't look for him.
Well, did you have a weapon with you?
Yes, I did.
What were you doing with a weapon?
I don't know. I was on parole. I shouldn't have even had a weapon.
Weren't you prohibited from carrying a weapon on parole, to having a weapon on parole? Okay, so go ahead. And that's part of my problem. Go ahead. Tell me what happened.
I wound up shooting James and killing him.
Well, where did you find James? How did you and James get to the point where you ended up shooting him?
We was there. We was there already. We was on the spot right there.
Where were you?
We was in a chicken shack. It's a restaurant.
All right, okay. So you saw him in there
Yes, sir. He was there.
and you were carrying a weapon?
Yes, sir, he was.
How long had you been carrying that weapon?
Not long. I just had it that particular night.
And why did you have it that particular night?
But someone had shot in my car and almost killed my daughter because she was sitting on the armrest.
And so, and when was that?
That was during the, that was happening that Thursday. And I wound up killing James that Friday.
Okay, so where did you get the gun from?
My brother-in-law.
And so how did you end up at the chicken shack where James was?
I had paid for some food there earlier and I was coming back to get it. And when I came back to get it, James happened to be there.
Okay, so tell me how it happened that you shot him and killed him.
When he drew his gun, I drew mine, so we started shooting.
Did you go to trial or did you plead guilty?
I went to trial.
And I assume your defense was self-defense?
No, sir.
What was your defense?
Well, as you know, Louisiana don't carry this self-defense law here in the state. So we just went to
I don't
trial.
understand when you say Louisiana doesn't carry self-defense. Certainly, it's a defense to defend yourself.
I didn't know that.
Jury found you guilty of second-degree murder?
Yes, it did.
Was there ever a weapon found on James?
No, sir.
Did he ever have a gun? I mean, there was no weapon found.
He did. His sister took
Nobody
it.
found one.
His sister took it.
You know, Mr. Hampton, I think I can understand, don't agree with it, obviously, but I can understand how that first crime might have happened. And it sounds like a judge and a DA was sympathetic with what happened and agreed to a 16-year sentence on a manslaughter charge. You get out. Then you go and you kill somebody again. You arm yourself with the weapon, you know you're a convicted felon, and you go in there and you kill someone you had bad blood with. You see my problem?
Yes, I do.
Now, tell me a little bit about this escape that you had a couple of years after you got arrested for that murder.
Well, we was on the dock, we was out on the dock. And then a girl came in and we tried to leave and go have sex in the bathroom. That's what that was about. They charged me with escape, like I left the parish. I didn't leave the parish, went in the elevator.
And you pled guilty to simple escape and you got 2 years. Tell me what you think are some of the more important. You had indicated in your documentation that victim awareness was the most important program that you had taken while you've been in prison. Tell me why that is.
Because victim awareness is a class. It teaches you to understand what exactly all the people that you hurt. This thing, I hurt a lot of people, you know, and for that, I apologize for that. Especially to the King family. I didn't know the impact of what this thing had done to my community.
Mr. Hampton, let me back up a little bit. You killed your own daughter. You didn't understand what it's like to lose a loved one to violence?
Yes, I do, but I didn't understand.
Violence?
Yes, I do. But I didn't understand all of this until you see these classes I took, this made me understand. I'm not that same person 40 years ago when I walked in here. They changed me. I don't know what it is, but they changed me. I'm not the same.
Well, I need you to try to tell me what it is that's changed you, because you're asking me to vote to recommend to the governor that he commute your sentence. I need to know specific, not those pieces of paper. I need to know what has changed you, what has gotten into your heart that makes you a different person today, that I can feel comfortable that you won't go out and commit a third killing.
Because what I've learned, all the opportunity I've been given here, taught me to be the man I am today. I can think rather than react. I can always take time to think, you know, and I can make good choices now. At first I couldn't because I didn't have the opportunity that I have today.
Well, tell me some things other than victim awareness. Tell me some of the other classes that have helped you. I mean, you took Malachi Dad's, took 100 hours of pre-release, thanking for a change. What specifically did those things do for you to make you realize that you're a changed person?
Thanking for a change, I know I can stop and think, and that's the best weapon I can use. If I stop and think about it, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna make good choices rather than bad choices. Because everything that I do in life, I know I need to stop and think about where I'm going, because there's consequences in everything. So, think of a change is one of my things.
You're a Class A trustee. How long have you been a trustee?
About, I think, 28 years.
You lost it in 2005.
I lost it a while and I got it back in 21
Okay.
days.
Lost it for a short period of time and you got it back. You worked on the carpentry crew for 15 years, is that right?
Yes, sir. And
You were allowed to leave prison to go work in different places around the parish or the state, is that right?
And so I did DOC headquarters in Baton Rouge. I did
You worked on some schools as well, as I understand it.
Yes, sir.
You've had 22 write-ups in the last 40 years in prison. The last one was in 2005. You got a good disciplinary record. You got a low tiger. Law enforcement obviously is opposed to your release. The victim's family two members of the victim's family support your release. They believe you've served enough time. Lionel King and Miss Linda Harvey support you. You were denied in 2015. What was the reason you were denied in 2015 when you came before this board? You remember?
I don't believe I was ready until I got what I got today. I finished those classes and stuff. I think I'm ready now. I wasn't ready back then. I got what I need.
Mr. Hampton, do you understand my concern that you have killed two different people? I mean, to me, you know, when I read your file, I said, oh my goodness, this man killed his daughter. And then I read you got only 16 years on a manslaughter charge. I was a judge. I realized that there must have been some mitigation there.
Mm-hmm.
But I also realized as a father how devastating that must have been for you and your family to have killed your daughter. And then you get out of prison and you go back and you kill someone else. Do you see, can you tell me why I should feel comfortable voting to recommend that the governor commute your sentence?
Yes, sir, because when I came here the first time, I didn't have the opportunity to get an education. I couldn't read, I couldn't write. So I left like I came in here. Today, I have all that. I can read and write, and I can do math, I can do basically anything that no one else can do. I hired myself to learn this because I don't want to leave here like I came here. So with all the stuff that I gathered, it made me the person I am. I'm a better person than what I was 40 years ago.
Tell me a little bit about your family support. Who have you got supporting you on the outside?
I have my wife and my son, Byron. I call him my son, but he's my nephew. And I have a parole project.
Warden, can you tell us anything about Mr. Hampton? Anything else about Mr. Hampton?
Only thing to add that he is in remission for prostate cancer. Like you said, he is 69 years old. He does have a good conduct record. His last report was in 2005, and he is a low risk.
Thank you.
Mhm. So, Mr. Hampton, you got in a fight with his brother and then you shot James?
Yes, sir.
Right. So, I mean, did you go there looking for the brother and ended up running into James?
I saw the brother came looking for me.
Okay, and you shot James in the back, correct?
No,
They said that you shot him in the back twice.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, how many children you have?
I got two.
Do you still have a relationship with both of them?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. O'Shea?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Hampton, let's go back to your manslaughter conviction. At the time, you said that you and your wife was arguing and tussling over a knife. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you fell on the bed and you accidentally stabbed your daughter.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Reading the report, your daughter was stabbed in her right eye and the stomach area. Your wife was stabbed in her left breast, her back, and she had stab wounds in her head. Did you get stabbed at any time during that altercation?
Yes, sir.
Where did you get stabbed?
She cut my throat.
Okay. But your daughter was stabbed twice. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And your wife was stabbed a total of 3 times.
If you don't know.
I don't know.
Well, the report said that you were stabbed in her left breast, her back, and the back of her head. I just wanted to know, basically, what was going on that you got stabbed, your wife got stabbed 3 times, and your daughter was stabbed fatally twice.
We was fighting. I was fighting, trying to get the knife from him. I know the baby got stabbed once. I'm not aware that the baby was stabbed more than one time.
Was.
The baby was stabbed once. After I got stabbed, I left out the house. I sat on the front step to wait for the cops, the police to come. I don't know what went on from that point on. I woke up at Charity, and from there, I went to the parish.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. Hunley, can we hear from the Parole Project?
Thank you, Andrew Hunley, Louisiana Parole Project, appearing before the board today to inform you that if Mr. Hampton is given early release in the near future, our organization is committed to provide reentry support for him based on his age, based on the amount of time that he's served, based on the jobs that he's had in the institution, based on his disciplinary record. We feel confident that if he's given this opportunity for the rest of the years he has left, that he can be a law-abiding citizen with our support. We feel like he would have a good transition back into the community with his family. If he is given that opportunity, he will receive all the support that all of our clients receive. He'll have access to our staff social worker, and he'll receive reentry support for a minimum of 1 year from one of our case managers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then we have Miss Viola Hampton. Your microphone's on mute. There you
Good
go.
afternoon to the board. I'm Jerry's sister, and I love my brother. He always had my support. I'm here for him. And I also have my friend, Mr. King. He didn't get here in time to register. We live in a small community here in Alexander, and we always, Miss Harvey, this is Lionel, we always been friends. You know, we never lost friendship.
Never.
And I love my brother. He got my support. For 40 years, I drove to Angola rodeos, visit, and everything. Like I say, he made me strong. He's not the same person. So when I'm down and out, he calls me, and I feel better. But that's all I got to say. I love my brother. And he got my support.
Mr. King, was there anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, I think everybody need a second chance. Y'all please just let him go. God forgives.
All right, at this time, we'll hear from the opposition from the DA's office. Lay on the line.
Yes, good afternoon. How are y'all doing?
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, my name is Derek Johnson. I'm one of the assistant district attorneys at Rapid East Parish District Attorney's Office. We're still strongly opposed to any kind of commutation of sins from Mr. Jerry. We believe Mr. Jerry, he had a chance. I mean, given the facts of stating today, he had a chance when he first was convicted of manslaughter, and he got out and did the same thing again. I mean, 2 lives were taken. 2 lives that didn't need to be taken because of mistakes that he made in his life, and we don't believe that it'll be right for him to be released today.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. All right, Mr. Hampton, before we turn it over to Ms. Hogan, is there something you'd like to say to us?
thank y'all for giving me the opportunity to appear before you all. And the first thing I would like to say, I would like to apologize to the King family, as well as the community and as well as law enforcement.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Hogan?
Thank you, Mr. Natsa. Acknowledging that there are two very serious convictions in this case. Nonetheless, Jerry Hampton is an ideal person to give an opportunity for release to. There's a lot of things that Mr. Hampton does that he doesn't get certificates for. He is a man of few words. So if he was not able to tell you all the things that he does, there is plenty to tell. In addition to the programs that were mentioned, Mr. Hampton learned how to read and graduated from literacy school just last year. He's working on obtaining his GED, which he could continue to work towards if he's granted release to the parole project. Mr. Hampton also has a carpentry. He's able to build a house from start to finish. He can frame, he can drywall, he can do anything. There's a certificate in his record from on-the-job training, 12 years of carpentry work. Mr. Hampton isn't just in remission for cancer. He also had a heart attack in 2017, which brought him into the hospital for a week. And after that heart attack, he was given a no-duty status. So if Mr. Hampton didn't want to work or didn't want to do anything to better his prison community, he doesn't have to. But nonetheless, he works as an orderly. He mentors to people. He's very active in his church. If somebody is needed to help pour cement, Mr. Hampton goes out and volunteers. He, whenever the ACA comes to inspect the hobby shop at Camp F, Mr. Hampton kicks everybody out and cleans the entire hobby shop by himself because these are things that he loves to do. He takes pride in his work. He makes absolutely stunning woodwork. There are some examples of which that I've attached to my brief. There's like, he makes things out of wood. He makes things out of stainless steel. And he is frequently donating the proceeds, or he donates hobby crafts to charitable organizations. For all of these reasons, Mr. Hampton's not the person that he was when he walked into prison 40 years ago. And I recognize that it's not just one conviction, it's the prior one as well. But if this board's looking at the rehabilitation that Mr. Hampton has exhibited over the past 40 years, the likelihood of his success on release, which is high given his low risk of recidivism score. And the fact that like Jerry said for himself, whenever he went to prison the first time and came out, he was exactly the same as when he went in. He was uneducated, unable to read, unable to better himself. And now he has all those tools that he lacked when he first came to prison. He has the full support of the parole project. His wife is here as well. They've known each other their entire lives. They were married and reconnected in 2013. He has after the parole project, he has a transition plan that would not bring him back to Rapides Parish. He would live with his wife in Baton Rouge. And given all of this, and also given the support of Mr. King, we would ask this board to commute Jerry Hampton's sentence to a term of years.
Great, thank you, ma'am. All right, prepared to vote, Mr. Marabella?
Thank you. Mr. Hampton, as I stated at the beginning of my questioning of you, you've got an excellent prison record, done very well. So, right, I read and I saw all of the things that you've accomplished, all of the work that you do, all of the things that you've accomplished while you're there. Again, my concern is your crimes. I often say, that's just one factor that we factor in. We look at everything else. But in looking at your crimes, again, I would point out that the manslaughter charge, apparently the DA and the judge realized that there was some mitigation. How you were able to get a 16-year sentence on a manslaughter charge. That's why we were you're allowed to plead to that charge, I guess. Separately, both of these cases are sort of understandable, I guess. But together, they really do cause a bit of a problem to me. But on the second one, the one that went to prison, you went to trial for and were convicted of, you've done 40 years. And you've done well while you've been in prison. Based upon the work that you've done, based upon your prison record, very good disciplinary record, things that you've accomplished, I'm willing to take a chance on. My vote is going to be to recommend to the governor. You're 69 years of age, you've been in prison for 40 years. My recommendation is that your sentence be commuted to 80 years. So good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr.
Okay, it's like Judge Marabella said, you know, it's not a one offense, it's two offenses, both very violent offenses. You know, one took the life of your daughter. So that's two separate lives, three separate lives you've taken, and my vote today is to deny.
Mrs. Jackson.
All right, Mr. Hampton, my vote would be to grant a commutation. You have done really well. And I understand the situation where you went into prison the first time, you didn't have the opportunity to take advantage of things to better you. And you've had that over the last 42 years. You've done well with your incarceration. And my vote today would be to grant with a recommendation of commutation to 80 years.
Mr. Rich.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Hampton, my vote is based upon the age of the offender and the length of incarceration. And my vote is to commute it, sentence to 80 years.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Hampton, based on the remarks by Mr. Lionel King, my vote today is also to recommend the commutation to 80 years. So you've received 4 votes to commute your sentence, recommend that your sentence be commuted to 80 years. We'll make that recommendation on the behalf. Good luck to you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, ma'am.